Hey guys, Tasty Taste. I'm trying something a little bit different this day. We're gonna go traveling for my rambles today. So yeah, check it out right after this quick intro.
Hey everyone, it is Tasty Taste from Bloodofkittens, Kittens, and I'm just doing a hike, pretty close to my backyard here, and I'm just finishing up. But usually when I'm hiking, when I'm not looking at nature, I think about what else? Warhammer 40k. So I felt to take a second and just talk about what's on my mind. What my mind is on right now is specifically Death Guard, and what the Death Guard have kind of got me thinking about is how Games Workshop continues to kind of catch up to the meta, basically correcting the sins of the past, not realizing that they've already been self-corrected by players, and new codexes kind of fix old things, make things that were once good terrible. And I just feel like Games Workshop has taken the whack-a-mole approach to killing things really to an extreme. And the reason for this is that they have data now. Thanks to competitive players providing data, thanks to competitive players being inside playtesting teams, thanks to now they hired a competitive player, a runner of a grand tournament, Nova Open, Mike Brandt. They really are more incentivized to see problems in the game and fix them. The only problem is that they run up against a bigger problem, and that is whoever handles the release schedule, which I'm guessing is the accountants in the marketing team handle when something needs to be released and when something doesn't be released. And so what that means is that we'll go months without a correction or a quick hot fix, FAQ fix. But then once the codex comes out for something new, they've really tortured and beat up on that unit or that combo so badly that it's really terrible. Now, of course, this could also just be by design for Games Workshop. Obviously, we've always experienced this kind of fighting the last battle situation, where they're like, oh, Plague Bearers are too powerful. Let's make this one change. Oh, Feel No Pain is an extra die roll and is also too powerful. Let's fix that and start getting it. 3+ armor is a classic, 3+ invulnerable saves is a classic example. They're just getting rid of it hog wild, when in fact they should be strategically still keeping it in certain situations because it kind of is a balancing factor. Now, of course, this is trying to make the game more lethal, less dice rolls, and so that's generally the concept behind the overall concept. It's a good idea, but at the same time, things that were good don't have to be automatically made into terrible. And so I think Games Workshop is just doing too much of that. And now what I just alluded to just a few seconds ago is that this all could be by design. And the design is basically that, hey, we've sold enough of this kit. We're not going to run it through the mold to run another, 100,000 SKUs of it. So what we need to do is we need to make these other units, new units, or units that we are, sitting on a shelf and we don't want to melt down and repurpose, and have those guys get them new boosts. And this has been throughout Games Workshop's history since they started really getting invested in codexes and rules, but I think they've just taken it to a more precise level now because they have all this analytic data that they're obviously using. Now, what that means going forward is that we will have probably, releases where, let's just give an example. Say they felt, Eldar psychic powers are too powerful. And the Eldar codes come out and they really nerf all the psychic powers. But in doing so, they really take away a core aspect of the game that everyone's been playing with for editions. Of course, this will force players to either give up that army, but more likely they're going to buy the units that they need to win with, especially if they're dedicated to the army. And so this whole grand concept that Games Workshop's using is quite insidious if it is intentional. And there's no reason to believe it's not intentional, but at the same time, we've seen Games Workshop do stupid things in the past, so it's possible that it's just happened since they really are just playing this game of whack-a-mole, hitting people over the head with what's new and just giving them the best rules for the new units and just basically hurting the units that were dominating the meta. Geez, I keep on forgetting, do that like and subscribe thing as well to this video if you like what I'm talking about. Hopefully we'll get some games and I'll be able to do some battle reports, but for now, we're going to stick with me just talking nonsense for the next couple weeks. Take care, guys. Bye. Now, this also leads me into another point I want to make, and that is because of our global situation, we're not getting that much data. So what Games Workshop is relying on is kind of a lot of anecdotal evidence and a lot of just hype from forums and that sort of thing, or those competitive players that are in touch with that. So that's where we got to see the Eradicators go up in points, ATV lose their cheaty thing where they can come back alive without actually having any cool data to say, hey, this is a broken aspect of the game. Especially with ATVs, there was no real competitive tournaments that had that kind of list really win. I think one made it to third place, something like that. So the jury was still out if that was even an effective strategy, especially with the points cost they had and all that stuff. So the solution to that was maybe keep that rule and then just, you know, hey, add some points to that unit. But also, in a kind of logical sense, it's an ATV, it's a biker, but is it more of a vehicle? So who knows where that would have gone. But still, the point remains is that the data that Games Workshop's getting, the feedback they're getting might be skewed to streamers, not really to actual outcomes of tournaments. And so that's something to really keep an eye on going forward, especially in this situation, is that we're not going to really get enough aggregate of stats, enough aggregate of results to really say, hey, definitively this unit is broken. And by then we'll have like 4 or 5 new codexes out. You know, hopefully, depends on supply chain issues Games Workshop's going through. But until we get those, we're not going to know. So I would just like to see Games Workshop hold back. You know, not be forced to release so many FAQs. Anything that's really terrible that's abused. Just let it see how it plays out, because we actually don't really know where the meta is, except for what people are telling us that are really competitive minded. And we should also not take their advice, you know, with a grain of salt. We should actually take it with some sort of authority. A lot of these players that are doing play testing, a lot of these players that we see online are tournament players that have been playing for years. So they do know the game a little bit more than your average gamer. But at the same time, Theory Hammer and Real Hammer are quite different things. And if Games Workshop's going to play whack-a-mole, then they could inadvertently hurt some sales by nerfing something they shouldn't have, or nerfing something too soon, or something too late, like in the case of Iron Daddy. He got point raised out of the blue for really no apparent reason, except for fighting the last war when he was OP. But obviously, since 9th edition came out, he wasn't OP. So who knows when they made that decision and why that was made. But it just goes to show Games Workshop needs to kind of be a little more careful with what it does, especially if, you know, in the end wants to sell more models. There's no reason why we can't keep something good, then still make something better so that people can still be invested in the models they have and also be encouraged to buy new models or more of the same. Anyway, so that's my little spiel as I'm walking down this hill. So I'm going to get off this because I don't want to trip. But anyway, I'm also going to have maybe an article. I don't know, it's possible, about this on Blood of Kittens. We'll see. It depends on how tired I am after finishing this hike. But anyway, thanks guys for watching. Take care.